give us a second. We're going to go through this quickly. The cars of James Bond. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right. It all started with actually the Sunbeam Alpine. Some of you are car enthusiasts know this car. It's a British car. And this actually first appeared in Dr. No in 1962. He actually, in the classic 007 fashion, the super spy is lured to the apartment of Miss Taro, an enemy spy. As he drives up the mountainside for a heart-to-heart with Miss Taro, he's actually ambushed, and that's the scene you see in the bottom right. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. So the next slide, James. You can really ask any James Bond fan about the five most iconic cars, and the DB5 will certainly make the list at the top. In terms of recognition, that the Aston Martin DB5 has been greatly popularized by the sheer number of movies that has been featured in, and of course 007's version is equipped with machine guns, tire slashers, ejection seats, as Dick was talking about earlier, and many other nifty gadgets that to foil the bad guys. The DB5 also popular was so popular, was featured in a medley of James Bond films, including Thunderball, GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, Casino Royale, and Skyfall.
Yep, and let's go to the next slide. This is the earlier version of what ended up becoming the revival of the DB5. This is the DBS. You see this from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And the fifth Bond, actually, for some reason, they chose not to use Sean Connery. They brought in George Lazenby. And this actually would play a tragic role in this movie because Bond and his wife are driving. If you remember this movie, driving the car, and she's actually assassinated through the windshield. Right. And so and this is, of course, as always, equipped with missiles and everything else by Q. Let's go to the next slide.
And that, in fact, in the Living Daylights introduced a new 007, Timothy Dalton, and despite being a new James Bond, the producers decided to bring back the old car, and they brought back the DBS, one that hasn't seen the light of day in Bond films for the past 18 years. The Aston Martin, this time Q Labs goes all out, making this the most deadly Bond car to date. The Aston Martin is equipped with tire spikes, missiles, lasers, missile guided displays, and self-destructing timers and more. Despite all the modifications, the Aston Martin V8 looks just as beautiful as the DBS Bond drove in Her Majesty's.
And this Vantage is probably my favorite, at least my personal favorite. Right. Yeah. So, and then Pierce Brosnan comes now as a his grand debut is in GoldenEye. And now we get to the DB5, and we watch what he does best, which is woo the ladies. And which is in this movie, I think the MI6 psychologist Caroline. Yep. They take this ride in Aston Martin through Europe, and soon enough, then a Ferrari Spider 355, challenges them to a race, and the two vehicles have it. And then he stops the car because Caroline believes that they're going too fast, and then somewhere a bottle of champagne comes out of the car.
That's right. What's interesting is later on when he was talking to Zayn Yanatop in the casino, he calls her out as having a stolen car by saying, even that the Ferraris of this year start with the license plates start with a 7, even the stolen ones.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, so in Die Another Day takes a twist for sci-fi, and due to the introduction of the Aston Martin V12, and that's incredible. The Vanquish, and its ability to vanish, and they actually deemed this car in the movie. Q called it the Vanish rather than the Vanquish. Well, not exactly. The Vanquish, or perhaps the Vanish, can generate an invisibility cloak and allows James to drive around virtually undetected. And of course, the high-tech car wouldn't be complete without the usual fare of torpedoes, target-seeking shotguns, an ejector seat, and other devices. And Bond was doing perfectly fine sitting undetected in the ice palace of Gustav Graves. That was until a snowmobile plowed into the Aston Martin, giving it away. Giving away his location and initiating a chase involving a similarly souped-up Jaguar, another British motor car. The most notable gadget on the Jaguar was a thermal imaging screen that allowed the henchman to keep up with Bond. A 7-minute chase sequence, that's a long time in a movie, 7 minutes, ensures that involve missiles, rockets, machine guns, and even ejector seats.
Let's go to now what is the next slide? A very modern looking designed Aston Martin, a DBS package. Now this is the V12 as well, and this makes its appearance in Casino Royale, the 2008 movie. And this was a reboot of the Bond franchise with Daniel Craig. And this is just an incredible movie. It's probably my favorite.
Mine as well.
Bond movies. And so why don't we just go on to the next one, which is now the revival of the iconic classic.
Yeah, and this made its grand reappearance in Casino Royale, where he actually wins this car in a high stakes poker game. In the latest film Skyfall, they actually used this car again there when they were running, and M made the statement saying, "I'm not hiding in the garage," and he said, "No, we're simply changing cars," and the Aston Martin DB5 reappears.
Yeah, of course, the car gets blown up to pieces
It
at
did.
the end of that movie.
It did.
Hey, thank you everyone for joining. Hope everyone had a little bit of fun, and